Welcome back to the Whatcom Dads podcast, the podcast where three local dads share their parenting experience. This week, the dads discuss achieving a good family-work balance, they share some holiday gift ideas, and take a World Cup quiz.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friend Nathan. Hello, friend Mark.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for coming over and wearing a headset microphone.
This is fun. This is so fun.
It has been a little while.
2.5 months to be exact.
My headset still fits.
Did you forget how to do this?
Well, it's like riding a bike.
We'll know soon enough.
Yeah. We'll crash once or twice.
Ask me at the end. So I thought since it has been so long, we should remind listeners how old our kids are. So go ahead, Chris.
I have 2 children. Lexi, who is 16, and Alyssa is 13. 2 teenagers.
And Mark, your kids and where they're currently residing.
So Allie, my oldest, is 26 and lives in Boston, Massachusetts. And Ben is 23 and just moved to Detroit, Michigan.
And I'm Nathan, and I have a 9-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a 4-year-old girl.
Gosh, they're getting big.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we started this, we were at different stages of parenting. We're still at different stages of parenting, but they're different stages, if that makes sense. We're all like 2.5 years further down the road.
Yeah, right.
So you're well into teenage years. You're empty nesting, and I'm all out of diapers and strollers and stuff.
It's like a pay raise.
We're all kind of leveled up.
And you have a driver now.
That has made life much easier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, without a doubt. And
you have no one else eating your food except you and your wife.
Yeah, and so for me, it's super easy. There's nothing to do anymore.
You probably go through a lot less milk and frozen pizzas.
But I still go to Costco every Saturday.
Well, that's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good point.
It is.
Well, will you get to see your 2 out-of-the-house dwelling children over the holidays?
Yes, we're actually going to go to Detroit. Ben's job requires him to work over the holidays, so he cannot travel. So we're all going to meet in Detroit and have a Detroit Christmas.
I think you have to say what kind of job Ben got, because listeners who have been following along have followed along Ben finishing up college and his first couple jobs. Now he's got a cool new job.
Super cool job.
He got hired by the Detroit Pistons, so he's working in the NBA.
That's so cool.
Doing communication, media type stuff, stats, social media for an NBA team. He's fired up. He sent me a couple of pictures last night. The Lakers were in town, and he got to see LeBron James up close and personal, and he was pretty fired up about it.
So as like a dad moment, you're a sports guy. You grew up playing sports, watching sports. You raised him playing sports, watching sports. Like, how does that feel that he's sort of achieved one of his goals? He worked for the Bells here locally. He worked for a minor league team in Texas, and now he's in the big show.
Yeah, I mean, we're extremely proud of him. We're so happy because he's living his best life right now. And he's not making a ton of money, and he's living alone in Detroit. But man, oh man, he's making the most of it, and he's got great stories. So we're just so incredibly proud of him and what he's already accomplished.
And he didn't just fall into this. This is years of hard work and doing things at Western that kind of led to him getting his other jobs, which led to this. And is this a 1-year contract for him to work this job?
It is. His job technically is over at the end of the season, but he's hoping that they offer him something to keep him on. They seem to like him. They give him a ton of responsibility. He's got the all access pass to go anywhere he wants, whenever he wants. He's living a dream. He went back there and had to find a place to live and stuff. And then after about a week, he said, I think it was meant for me to be here. A block from my house, there's a Bagley Street. There's a Ferndale, Michigan, about 30 miles away. One of the players on the team is named Marvin Bagley, and his mom's name is Tracy Bagley. My sister's name is Tracy.
That's crazy.
And so her maiden name is Tracy Bagley. So Ben said, I think it was meant to be.
And how many people can buy a jersey for the team they work for and it already has their last name on the back? You don't have to pay the extra personalization charge.
That's exactly right.
That's probably what they were talking about when they decided who to hire. They're like, this guy's going to save us.
That's right. Anyway. He'll save us $47 in
Anything else go on last several months of import or worth discussing?
Just kids' work, family.
I had my 30th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
You did?
Yeah.
Way to go.
Can you believe that? She's been with me for 30 years.
She's a saint.
She is a saint.
Absolutely. What did you do to celebrate?
We went to Leavenworth.
And? I mean, I won't ask the intimate details, but did you go to dinner? Did you go?
Yeah, we stayed at some beautiful inn across the street from all the downtown happenings, and we went to dinner at a golf course about 25 miles out of town. Maybe one of the best meals I've ever had.
Wow.
Really?
Incredible.
You got to find out what it is.
Yeah, phenomenal food.
Egg salad sandwich, chips. What did you get at the golf course?
I got some Indian.
It was at the 19th hole, right?
No. Annette said she had a steak. Said it was by far the best steak she's ever had at a restaurant.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Better than, and we all love the steakhouse here in Ferndale. She said way better. Melt in your mouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you had? No, wait. Let me guess. Mexican lasagna. No? Call back to prior episode?
I had some sort of Indian dish. I can't remember the name. But they had Indian food. They had Japanese food. They had Italian food. It was this potpourri. Phenomenal.
That is amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that.
I'll figure out the name.
Your life can change in an instant. Car accidents impact all aspects of your life and lead to pain and suffering, medical bills, and time missed from work. Robinson & Cole, attorneys in Bellingham, can help. They have represented thousands of clients since 1979. They also handle other types of injury claims, including workers' compensation. Consultations are always free and are available in Spanish. Robinson & Cole. When you need us, we will be here.
So this episode, I want to talk a little bit about family and work balance. I know this is a thing that probably all parents struggle with. It's, your time is a fixed pie. So you've got work time, you've got family time. And if you're lucky, you can spend some time with your buddies or just doing things that you like mowing the lawn or washing your car or just things that bring you joy. And so there was a podcast I listened to. I'll link it in the show notes. I had you guys listen to it, the NPR Life Kit Parenting. They covered some topics on this. And so I guess I just want to kick it off just asking your personal experience. Kind of what's been your, barometer, so to speak, as to when things are getting a little out of whack. Things aren't in balance. They're not the way that you want them to be. And then what have you tended to do to try and get things back in balance?
I put a lot of emphasis on work when I first started the job here in Bellingham, when the kids were really small. And I don't think I did a good job in having a barometer. And I was very lucky to have Annette be that person who would pick up the slack and do what needed to get done, because I was putting so much emphasis on work and spending evenings and weekends doing work.
And just for context, you moved here to take your first job sort of away from where you grew up and away from your alma mater where you had worked for several years after graduating, right?
Yeah, right.
So this is like your first step out into the professional world in something that's new and not comfortable.
And didn't know anybody. I had to prove myself, the whole thing. So,
and the kids were how old?
Well, Allie was 18 months and Ben wasn't born yet. So, just starting out. And that, and now I have the privilege of hindsight. And boy, if I could change it, I'd change it in a heartbeat. And we will talk about the podcast, but that we listen to. But making the time for the kids at every stage, whether they're Molly's age or whether they're Lexi's age, you don't get that back. And work's always going to be there.
Yep.
And it's easy to say now because the pressure's gone. But boy, trying to find that balance sooner rather than later is really a blessing if you can find it. And if you have the ability to adjust those priorities.
And so it sounds like you weren't aware that you were out of balance.
No.
And so at what point did that light bulb go off?
Oh, too late. But, I was feeling, I had to work because my job provided insurance. So if I got fired from my job or we would have no insurance. And I was the only one working, and that was at home with the kids. And if I got fired, we wouldn't have a place to live or food on the table. So that's why I prioritized it. And I think I justified it because it was for the family. This is the right thing for Annette. This is the right thing for the kids. This is the right thing for us as a unit.
But you work in a industry that I think traditionally has a lot of turnover.
It does have a lot of turnover.
And you've been at your job now for decades.
25 years.
And so I can see how that could be like a really real fear that you're like, oh, like there's no going back. There's no alternative. I have to do as much at work as possible. And because of all these things I'm worried about.
Yeah. And I thought I was being the best dad and the best husband by being the provider and being that person who just kind of shouldered that. And I took it really seriously and I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I'm not sure when I actually had the light bulb moment. Probably when the kids were in high school.
And would it also maybe have coincided when you had the most, let's just say, job security, for lack of a better term, that you could say, oh, now I can pull time from work and devote it to family, and I don't run the risk of losing my job or worrying about these things.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, we also put pressure on ourselves because in the industry I work in, there's not a lot of other opportunities in Bellingham, and we wanted to stay in Bellingham. So I could have quit my job and moved to Seattle or Portland or back to L.A., but I didn't want to go back there. So I had to do all I could because we liked where we lived.
Yeah.
How about just time for you during those years? Was it non-existent? Was it not sneaking, but like trying to just find little pockets of things? Like, this is a time before I knew you. Like, what was your self-care like? And if you had to, in hindsight, say, like, how was I doing with that? Splitting up the time.
Yeah, you talked about mowing the lawn. I mean, my release was being outside, working outside. And that, again, bless her heart, was also really good about taking the kids, like for a weekend or going somewhere, visiting her parents, and kind of leaving me because she knows and I know that I need time to myself. Yeah. And that's really important for me because I'm just that kind of person. I enjoy being alone.
Yeah, I mean, you are an introvert, and people often mix up what that means. Right. You recharge being by yourself.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you don't like being around people, but you get energy back by yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I've dominated. Please, Chris.
No, well, what's interesting listening to you for me is I have a similar sort of timeline, right? When I was really overdoing it, Amy was getting her master's degree. And I, too, had started a new gig at Western. And I also felt the need to really deliver. And so Amy and I were constantly trading off back and forth. And I had a lot of late nights where Amy was really carrying the brunt of the load. And we would try to balance that. And the only way that I ever made myself feel better about it was knowing that the girls weren't going to remember because they were so young. And so it's like, if there's a time for me to do this, now's the time. Although I also felt like I was getting cheated out of monumental moments, right? That kids have when they're younger too. Nowadays, I have two thoughts. First of all, I think that we're very fortunate to work jobs that give us vacation time to do those things. I think about when I worked in my college job, I worked construction, and a lot of my coworkers who are professional carpenters and construction workers, you don't get to just take paid leave to go do stuff.
No.
When you take time off, that's
Unpaid.
and you just don't have that same fortunate benefit. And so I feel very grateful that I have a job that allows me that opportunity to be able to get paid leave to do that. Now, to answer your question, Nathan, about how do I know when we're out of balance, is I can tell actually sometimes in the kids in how they're connecting with us or engaging with one another, somehow in their behavior. We realize, you know what, it's time for us to take a step back, take a break. Let's do daddy-daughter time or something. Let's go on do a family thing together. Or the disconnect, which wasn't really talked about in the parenting piece, is the disconnect between spouses.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that too.
And Amy and I, we'll notice that immediately, where life is going so fast with our own jobs and the stresses that come with that. And then by the time we get home, we still haven't even had a chance to say hi to one another because we're running a million miles an hour for our kids.
Yep.
And so really trying to find a way to reset and recharge, not just for our kids, but for each other. And when we do that, then we're actually better parents for our kids at the same time.
Yeah, and if you have a spouse or partner or significant other who can kind of check you and say like, hey, it just seems like things are a little out of balance, and be understanding, right? Oh, there's this project at work. I'm going to be checked out for 2 weeks. And then, but if you can be honest with one another and say like, hey, I need you to readjust or do things a little different, that's helpful, because I think we are our own worst enemies in that we have these blinders on and we don't know sometimes until it's too late. And either we're overstressed or exhausted or not exercising or not eating well. And then like it has to be a big correction as opposed to just a lot of little small corrections.
Yeah, that's true. What about you?
I didn't have kids till I was 34. And so I was well established in my career and happened to be self-employed. And so both of those things actually made this really easy for me. I count myself very lucky for that reason, that, I didn't ever have to worry about being able to leave to do something with the kids. I didn't have to clock in for time in and time out. And I had job security. Now, were there times where, yes, I was working after they went to bed, or I went in for a couple hours on a Saturday? I still had to get the work done, but just being able to have that flexibility. I put in my time working the really late hours before I was married and before I had kids, and it just happened that way. Yeah. But I've been lucky to be able to do that.
I think the recharge time that you were talking about, Mark, the alone time, I'd be curious to do a poll, right, of like all the dads out there. You hear about how dads don't have social groups, really. Dads don't have, we don't have friends or whatever. We need to make more friends and stuff. And I wonder if part of that is we got our jobs, we got our homes, we got our families and everything else. And then sort of our recharge time might be our alone time to tinker or do something else. Whereas maybe with, our spouses, it's going out and having coffee with friends or something like that. I don't know, because I'm like you, Mark. Like I really just need. Just this last weekend, I went and played 9 holes by myself out of Raspberry Ridge, just to walk and think, talk out loud to myself, swear at the golf ball.
You listen to that podcast. I'll put a few links to other articles about this, but let's talk a little bit about then things people can do to try and adjust that balance. And I'll hit you with a couple stats that I saw in some research. 43% of people surveyed by the American Psychological Association said that their family time interferes with their work. 66% of people, according to an Ohio State study, said they suffer from parental burnout. They need a break from parenting. Yeah. And 94% of working professionals indicated they do some sort of work activity more than 50 hours a week. So if that's what the majority or a lot of people are thinking, what are some ways that people can readjust, shift their time from one to the other?
You figure that one out, Nathan. Write a book and you can quit your job.
I mean, one thing that the podcast mentioned was say no to stuff. Like, I think a lot of us are people pleasers. We want to be liked. We want to volunteer. We want to give of our time. But saying no to some things can be powerful because it frees you up to do other stuff. I sort of justify it sometimes like, well, I'm going to say no now because I have little kids, but I know that my time will come and I will be able to do these sorts of things later when there's not so much requirement from the kids.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, saying no, while it can be a healthy thing to do, people with certain personalities can't say no because they feel guilty for saying no. And I was talking to a colleague just last week, and she was saying in her kid's classroom, the teacher says, I don't have any volunteers anymore. No one is coming in to do these where I need help. And my colleague feels like she needs to be that person because so many people are saying no. But this teacher is flailing because there's no one to volunteer.
And so, and post-COVID, I think this is a problem.
I think it is
because
too.
People got comfortable saying no during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think across the board, I probably would guess volunteering is down and people are more comfortable saying no, but it is one way to free up more time.
It is, but I think it's also important to remember, what are you freeing up time for?
And that's the next thing. Where would you spend your extra time?
Right.
Would you spend it on yourself because you need self-care, exercise, alone time? Or is it because you feel behind in your parenting and you want to devote more time to that? Or is it because you want to get that next promotion at work and you want to? So I think being deliberate when you say no, if you say, I'm going to say no to this, but I'm going to devote this extra time to this for a good reason.
Yeah. I mean, and is it go hang out at the bar with your buddies? Is it to, play video games? I mean, I think a lot of it depends on, for me, I like my time to be very constructive and I like to accomplish things. I'm not a good sitter.
Right.
I need to be doing something all the time.
I was just going to say that I think it's about also, especially having teenagers, right? I mean, my girls sleep until like 10 or 11 on weekends.
Yeah.
So Amy will go work out. She'll have coffee with her friends. I'll take the dogs on their walk. I'll get a big walk in.
Sure.
I'll play 9 holes of golf or something. Like, we will intentionally do those things. If I sleep in, I'm actually more miserable because I feel like I cheated myself out on my own time that I had scheduled for myself. Right.
Another thing that was in one of these articles was that striving for perfection might also be inefficient, right? And knowing the three of us, I think we all like to get things right and do them well.
Yeah.
But if you say to yourself, like, well, that task could take 4 hours, but I could probably do it in 2 and it would probably be okay. And I'm not saying that you should do a less than stellar job at your work, but does the garden need to be perfect versus spending time with the kids? Or does the garden just need to be good enough so that the stuff comes up?
Or do you have the kids join you in the garden?
Well, and I was just going to say,
to help out.
And I was just going to joke about how sometimes I will have things structured. Like, what I'll do? I'm going to take care of the things that I want to do for me. And then what I'll do is I'll have them join me with some of the tasks I want to do. Or I'll have in my mind of, we're going to go to the mall together. We're going to do something. And then they wake up and they go, no, I already have plans with my friends. And then I realize, oh, well, shoot, like, when am I actually going to spend time and be a parent, be a dad with my kids? It backfires sometimes.
Another thing was asking for help. I think it's hard sometimes, but when you're at your wit's end, and if you're lucky enough to have friends or family who would pitch in, can you come over for an hour, especially when the kids are really young, and hold the baby while I do some laundry or take a shower? I mean, that sort of stuff frees up time. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
And I'm terrible at that. Funny.
Not my strength.
No, and actually last week I was stressed out about some work stuff. I needed to get finished off before I had another work event in the evening. Lexi was going off to play volleyball. Alyssa needed a ride to get to her volleyball, and Amy had a work function. So Alyssa didn't have a ride, and all of her teammates live out in the county.
Oh, gosh.
And so Amy, problem solved, reached out to a neighbor, one of our neighbor kids, and said, hey, can you take Alyssa to volleyball? And of course, yeah, sure, no problem. Any excuse to go drive.
Yeah.
You bet. I never would have actually thought about that. I'm not very good at that at all.
Terrible at that.
I would have thrown my hands up in the air, been really frustrated, angry, sprinted Alyssa to where she needed to be, and then somehow something would have gotten dropped.
Been stressed out
Yeah.
through the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I think this can go in all three kind of slices of the pie. I mean, there could be times you could ask for help at work. You know your own job, but if there's something that, gosh, I got to get away for family, can somebody at work help me with this? This can go for just your own me time. Hey, guys, I've had a really rough week. Can anybody come hang out for an hour? I just need some kind of recharge time. So it's not just that getting help for the parenting tasks, but, if you recognize your priorities are askew or you're not being able to devote time to something, I think asking for help, while tough, can buy you some more time.
Yep.
My problem is I equate asking for help as weakness.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like the male ego thing. I don't know.
Well, and you're a pretty self-reliant kind of person. And so if I could see you would feel that way.
Just don't like doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll just give you help without asking.
That's right. Well, you're so liked. People would jump in a second. They would.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I hate asking for help. I do.
The last thing I'll leave listeners with is that I think the trick to making these adjustments is to make them incrementally. Don't try and turn the aircraft carrier around 180 degrees in a week. Audit your time, figure out where you're losing efficiency, figure out where things need to adjust, talk with your partner, spouse about, how to help get these things adjusted. And even if you make adjustments 10 minutes a week, guess what? In a month or two, you might have things back in balance in a way that's more helpful. So, in any event, something I think all parents struggle with. There's some good resources in our show notes, and hopefully, even if one of those helps you out, it'll help you get things back into a better balance. Well, did you guys bring any gift ideas for people in the same age bracket as your kids?
Cash is king.
Gift cards. Lexi's also asked for slippers. And of course, she didn't pick the Costco slippers, not the deer foams that they've got at Costco. She wants UGG slippers.
Oh yeah, those aren't expensive, are they?
$100 for slippers. Yeah. Makeup brushes, things to make them look pretty.
The beauty of for Ben lives in a studio apartment. He has no room for anything, so
there you go.
Makes it really easy.
That makes everything way easy. Well, and Ben's pretty he's a pretty simple dude.
He's a pretty simple guy. Get him a pair of socks. He's thrilled.
You guys are coming to visit him.
We're coming to visit him. That's right.
In itself.
That's right.
Well, a couple things I thought of, suggestions if you have people in the 4 to 9-ish age bracket. One thing that our kids really have enjoyed is a set of walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
If you go out, if you go skiing, you go hiking, even if you go to a hotel or, somewhere if they have those, they can, have a little more freedom and explore a little further. And so those are pretty inexpensive. So I thought that was a good one. Another one was a magazine subscription. There are still some of these same magazines that we looked at as kids.
Ranger Rick,
SI for kids, National Geographic, Highlights.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Highlights.
Love Highlights.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool when they get the magazine and they're excited about it. The trick is if they have different ones, they'll come at different times. And it's well, why didn't mine come today? Sorry, kids, I'm not in charge of the periodical distribution in the U.S. mail. But you can gift those subscriptions, I think, for 6 or 12 months to people. And then the third one, if you'd asked me a week ago, I wasn't sure this was a good gift. But for his birthday, my son got a little drone.
Oh, wow.
And they make them now for younger kids that are pretty durable. This one can bounce off stuff and not hurt it. And it's been a lot of fun the last couple of days. And just to see him kind of try and figure it out and play around with it. So they're relatively inexpensive now. They kind of plug into a USB port and charge up. They're kind of the size of your hand. But I wouldn't have said that because I would have been oh, you can break stuff. But give the little drone a shot, I think. It's a pretty cool gift.
So for the kids also, especially if they're just starting out, like a Spotify or a Hulu or a Netflix, something like
Good
that.
Idea.
Is just
that's a really
the
good
gift
idea.
that keeps giving all
That's
year.
right. They can take that for a year.
Yeah.
Lexi has, this is a couple years in a row now, she's asked for a Polaroid camera. Those are still popular with kids. And hydro flasks. They drop them, they get dents and dings, and after a while, it's like, I need a new one. So Hydro Flasks are still super popular.
Kids still putting stickers on the Hydro Flask?
Oh, yeah. Like, Alyssa's got volleyball stickers all over her Hydro Flask.
Nice.
Yep.
Allie likes to travel, and so last year we got her, we paid for her global entry.
Oh, that's a really great idea.
Yeah. So when she comes back in the country, she just zips right through.
That's fantastic.
Customs. It was cheap. It's like 35 or 50, $60, something like that.
Fantastic idea.
Super creative. Well, maybe a few ideas for you guys and gals out there who still have a few last-minute shopping items to pick up. So how into the World Cup have you two been?
Oh, my gosh. No, none. Not at all.
I was gonna say, wow, good for you.
Yeah,
I have not followed enough. I heard a couple days ago France beat England, which that's a big deal. Morocco, that's a big deal.
Morocco in the mix.
But I have not watched any games other than I think one U.S. game. That was it.
It seems like it didn't get as highly publicized and kind of take over like mainstream media and sports coverage like the way it has in the past. And I'm not sure why that is. But it seemed like in the past years when it would hit, maybe it's because it's not in the summer. Maybe that's the difference. When it's hit in the summer, it's been the only deal except baseball, and now it's competing with basically
Football,
all the
hockey,
other
basketball,
Everything.
sports going on at the same time.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big soccer guy. I was way more interested in the Western Washington University women's team winning the national championship.
Go Vikings! That was amazing.
I did watch
Vikings.
a couple of those games.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah. Congrats to them. Well, I thought I'd give you a little World Cup quiz.
Oh, great!
Oh,
Since
excellent.
You're
pass
such
this
big
one.
fans, and see how you did. All right. In what year did the World Cup start? Closest to wins the point.
What year did it start?
What year did the
I
World
think it
Cup start?
started in 1934.
I'll say 1948.
1930. Point goes to Mark.
You know, I'm sandbagging you. I'm watching every single World Cup game. I'm up in the middle of the night.
He's got the World Cup app.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the 22nd edition of the World Cup.
I'll be darned. Wow.
So in those 21 previous World Cups, how many different countries have won? So to understand the question,
Yeah.
take everyone that's ever won, how many different countries can claim that they're a World Cup champion?
7.
I was going to go with 6.
It is 8.
Oh, I went the wrong way.
Brazil has 5. Germany 4. Italy 4. Uruguay 2. Argentina 2. France 2. England 1. Spain 1. Notice a pattern there?
Europe and South America.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't Morocco the first African team to make the finals or whatever?
Semifinals, yeah.
Semifinals?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
That's pretty amazing, yeah.
Point for Chris there. What is the highest that the United States has ever finished in a World Cup? What place did they get?
I'm going to say they made it to I'll say they got 10th.
I'll say 8th.
3rd.
Oh, I was going to say 3rd, but then you went so
You
high,
still
you
got the
changed my... I
points.
did get the point, yes.
In the very first World Cup.
Really?
The United States.
So it's been downhill for the last
Got
80
third.
years.
Yeah,
Back
they-
then when
90
they
years.
kicked a soccer ball full of feathers.
Yeah.
I think there were like 8 or 6 teams at that point. It wasn't a lot.
Jeez.
But anyway, they can say they finished 3rd. All right, lightning round. Did this country participate in the World Cup or not?
This year or any years?
This year.
Okay.
And you can have the same answer. You don't have to have...
Okay.
So current score is Chris 2, Mark 1. Italy. Did they
Yes.
participate?
Yes.
They did not.
With that amazing history,
How did
come
they-
on,
why-
Italy.
They did not qualify.
Huh.
Canada.
Yes.
You are both correct on
Way
that
to
one.
go, Canada land.
Japan.
Yes.
No.
Japan is a yes. We are 3-3.
Woo! We're going to have like penalty kicks.
You need overtime first.
Oh,
That's right. Yeah.
South Africa.
No.
I don't think South Africa was in it.
South Africa did not. China.
No.
No.
China did not. Serbia.
Yes, the Serbs got it.
Serbs were in. 4-4. Norway.
Yes.
No.
Norway is a no.
Oh! He even tricked us. Gave the little nod.
Did,
yes,
yeah.
like I thought I had it.
Yeah, Norway apparently, I don't follow soccer a bunch, but has one of the best players in the world, this new up-and-coming guy, and he didn't get to participate, so that was a bummer. Italy, powerhouse, didn't qualify, so it's the way the cookie crumbles. But 2026 World Cup will take place in the
United States,
with some games also in
Seattle, right?
Games in Seattle, plus they're going to have games in Canada and Mexico, which include Vancouver.
Ooh.
So if you live in Bellingham, you're going to have equidistant opportunities to attend games.
Nice.
In another 4 years. There you go. World Cup quiz. Welcome Dad's podcast.
And I think I won.
You did win. 5-4.
You're welcome.
Sandbagger. He's going to watch the semifinals.
That's right.
Since we last podcasted, I took the old family to the happiest place on earth.
Bagley's living room.
The Disneyland. And that was really fun. It was a different trip now that the kids are older. I got them on bigger rides. We walked 9 miles a day. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Even
Wow.
the 4-year-old walked 9
She
miles
walked.
a day.
Did you throw her on your shoulders or anything at any time?
Maybe for 400 yards.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we were lucky enough that we could take a nap in the middle of the day, go to our hotel and break it up. But it was quite a nice trip. Things are busier post-COVID. A lot of people doing what we did to kind of make up for lost time, but got to squeeze that in.
So how did you pass on the news to them that you were going to Disneyland? Did you do some sort of big reveal?
I'm trying to remember how we did this. I think I printed out an itinerary that was sort of like day 1 flight, day 2 Disneyland, day 3 California Adventure. And I think Amanda had some sort of balloon or something. So we kind of wrapped it up like a scroll and said, we're having a family meeting, and put it in the middle of the table. And, you always have to figure out like, what's the sweet spot of when to tell them? Because if you tell them 6 months ahead of time, they're going to ask about it every day for 6 months.
Yeah.
If you tell them the day before, they're kind of panicked that they haven't packed their favorite stuffed animal and they don't have their books they want to bring or their headphones to listen to a podcast. So I think about 2 weeks out is when we told them, and it was pretty great. They got to be involved in some of the planning of like, all right, what rides do we want to try? And on one of our early episodes, we had Sabrina Tinius from Enchanted Traveler on the podcast, and she helped us out with this trip too.
Nice.
So shout out to them. I'll put a link in the show notes for that Disney travel company. But yeah, super great time. Tried to make up for lost COVID time as best we could, and pretty great.
So last time, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So last time, the kids didn't get to ride Space Mountain or probably Thunder Mountain, even none of the roller coasters, really.
This was the first kind of roller coaster time. And interestingly, sometimes Ellen would do a scarier ride and Ben would say no. And sometimes he would say yes and she would say no. And there was kind of there was really no rhyme or reason to it. And sort of a tip I figured out by day 3 or 4, if I asked them together, do you guys want to go on X ride? Invariably, one would say yes and one would say no. But if I took them off to the side and said, hey, do you want to go on this ride? And then separately said, do you want to go on this ride? I had a better chance of them both saying yes. But, there's that point where it's like, I think they'll like this. I want to push them to go on it. But I also don't want them to be miserable and have this terrible memory that my dad made me go on this. Yeah. So I was navigating that a lot. And I think I only made one mistake in my pushing them to go on rides.
And what was that?
That was the new Star Wars Rise of the Resistance ride, which is incredible. It lasts like 14 minutes.
Jeez. Whoa!
But my kids don't know Star Wars. They haven't seen the shows. And poor Ben, it was terrifying. And, halfway through the ride, you just go, this is an L for me. But, he's a pretty resilient kid, and he didn't hold it against me. He didn't mention it. And so when we got off, Amanda got to go on, and Ellen said, oh, I'll go again. And Ben shook his head, and
Once was
it
enough.
was very clear. So, but a multiple day trip to just blow it once, I feel like I did okay.
That's really good.
Nice.
And you had a little bit of weather.
The first day there, sideways downpour rain, to the point that Knott's Berry Farm, which is, I don't know, less than 10 miles away, maybe,
Yeah, it's pretty close.
closed. That's how bad the weather was.
Oh my gosh.
When it was, when it rains there, you grew up down there.
Yeah.
If it hasn't rained in a long time, you kind of get little flash floods everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's just say that we were using the hair dryers on our sneakers in the hotel that night. We were soaked to the bone, but not a lot of lines when it's pouring rain.
Honestly,
Amazing.
growing up down there, you would go to Disneyland when it rained because most of the rides are inside.
Yeah.
And if there's no one there, you don't wait in lines outside, and you go Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion and Space Mountain. It's all inside stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We put on our rain gear. We're true Northwesterners, and we hopped on some of those outside rides. I mean, you guys have been there. Like, the Dumbo ride is pretty popular.
Yeah. And fully exposed, too.
Yeah.
We were the only people on Dumbo. It was just the Dwyer family on Dumbo. That's how hard it was raining.
Wow.
So once, like, an experience that probably we could never replicate.
Yeah.
And we just powered through. The kids did great, and we have some good pictures. And that was the first day.
Oh my gosh.
But we rode a lot of things quicker than we normally would that day. And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the week, which was much better weather. But yeah, certainly unexpected, and really glad we brought 2 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
And the next time you go to Disneyland, you're all going to laugh and go, remember we rode that ride when it was pouring sideways?
Yeah. And, we have all the pictures, and I took a picture of how hard it was raining. And it was just one of those things where it could have gone sideways quickly. I mean, if we weren't a family from up here where the kids are used to it,
Yeah.
it would have been a no-go. But I mean, it was wind blowing, sideways rain, pelting us, soaked to the bone.
Isn't there an insurance commercial about people in the Northwest just a little bit different?
There is.
Pemco?
Yes.
Is it Pemco?
Yep.
That's the Dwyer
They're
family.
they're down at the beach with
Yeah.
the beach ball.
Yeah. It's the Dwyer family Disneyland. So I haven't been to Disneyland in a long time. I think the last time we went, the fast passes had just come out. And I think it might be a bit intimidating to go now, because aren't there like 4 or 5 different passes and apps and line cutting things you can do?
Not 3 or 4, but it's changed, and it changes a lot. But I kind of see it as like a challenge. So, I'm looking there, you get the app, and you got to figure out what ride next. And can you, if 3 of you go on this one, can 2 of you go on this one? So for me, it actually adds an extra element of like, how can I game the system? How can I, make the most of this and not cram as much in? Cause we wanted to go at a leisurely pace,
Yeah.
but still like trying to outsmart the system.
Get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty fun.
Trying to beat Walt.
Beat Walt at his own game. But yeah, it's a special place. And
So how long do you think you'll wait again, knowing your kids' ages? A few years kind of a thing, or?
yeah, another 2 to 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's with 3 kids, they're all going to be at different spots, and we still were like, characters were kind of a thing for them. But I can see, like, in 2 years, if Ellen's 11,
Ellen won't really care.
characters may not be a thing, and sort of like by then maybe they've seen Star Wars, and so that would probably mean more to them. And they have the Marvel stuff there too, which
Right.
my kids are familiar with from like toys, and their cousins have them.
Right.
And so we did a little bit of that stuff, Spider-Man. So, but yeah, I think they'll transition from, it's princesses and Winnie the Pooh to Marvel and Star Wars. And, Disney was smart to set these parks up this way now that you can kind of pull on the different age groups.
As always, thanks to our sponsor, Robinson & Cole Attorneys. To reach the show, check out our Facebook page or email the show at whatcomedadspodcast@gmail.com. The dads are aiming to record 1 show a month. To make sure you don't miss one, subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening.
Why do sharks live in salt water?
I don't know.
Because pepper makes them sneeze. Why do gymnasts... Oh, I screwed it up. What do gymnasts use to season their food?
I don't know.
Chalk.
Somersault.
The best is actually his delivery.
Yeah,
it's like perfect.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I'm going to get me a pet termite and call him Clint Eats Wood.
You know what's funny? You already told me that one, and I'm still laughing.
That's pretty good.
Very good.
That's pretty good. So my mom told me that I have no sense of direction, so I packed up my bags and write.
Oh my gosh. Here's another funny one. Guess who I ran into when I went to my eye appointment?
Who?
Everybody.